All right, people, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, just to tell you what this channel is all about, I'll be using my personal experiences from the previous recession to help people of the younger generation going through this current recession. And I do so by giving career and job search advice on things that I had to figure out the hard way. At the same time, I'll be sharing personal stories and experiences of things that I had to go through and things that you are probably going through at the same time during this time as all this is going on. So today's video, I'll be talking about predicting interview questions. Knowing what interview questions are ahead of time or having an idea gives you an advantage in the actual interview. And the things I'll be talking to you about are helpful if you're applying to both public or private sector. Let's go talk about it. The topics I'll be covering are predicting interview questions and the types of questions that you are going to come across. The reason why you want to do this is because it gives you a head start on the interview. Employers don't want you to know what the interview questions are ahead of time because they want a raw, unrehearsed response from you in the interview. It's their best way of gauging the kind of applicant that you are. But if you can predict what the interview questions will be and you start to practice those questions over and over again, you will sound less rehearsed and more natural in these interviews. The questions that you're going to get are going to come from HR, which is human resources, and hiring managers. Human resources will ask you soft skill questions. The hiring manager for that specific job is going to ask you specific technical questions. I'll be doing a video on soft skill and hard skill questions later on, probably sometime this week, so watch out for that. I'm going to teach you how to predict job interview questions. The first thing that you want to do is go to the job posting where you found the actual job. And on that posting, it'll have the job skills, requirements, and abilities. You can take those and turn them into questions. And a lot of those questions that you predict will actually pop up in the interview. In past experiences, before I went into job interviews, I would predict about 15 to 20 questions per job. At each of those job interviews, about 6 of those questions actually popped up in the interview. So I got a head start on the interviewer, which actually did help in the long run. Okay, so here's how to do it. I'm going to show you a job description that I got from a job posting of a project manager, and then I came up with questions based on that job description. So it says provide the highest level of customer-focused solutions from conception to completion, anticipating challenges, handling multiple project revisions, and meeting deadlines. Out of this one job description, I got 3 potential questions. Here's the first one. Tell us about a time you were assigned to a client project. What challenges did you anticipate when developing solutions to the customer's problems? If you look at the question I typed up, the words challenges and anticipate are highlighted. In the job description, I also highlighted anticipating challenges. That's basically how you take what is in the job description and you turn that into a question. Potential question number 2. Tell us about a time you were assigned to a client project. How did you respond each time the client wanted changes made to the product? So go back to the actual job description and you'll see I highlighted handling multiple project revisions. In the potential question, I asked the same thing, except I asked it in a different way. One thing about job interviews that you have to understand is that employers don't always ask a direct question. They will ask a question, but they will always rephrase it because they understand that you're doing exactly what I'm teaching you to do, is predict questions. So it's kind of like a cat and mouse game at some point. But the thing is, it's the same question asking the same thing. It's just reworded. Potential question number 3. Tell us about a time you were assigned to a client project that had strict or competing deadlines. Once again, I highlighted strict or competing deadlines. If you go to the job description, I highlighted meeting deadlines. Once again, I asked the same question, except it's been rephrased. That's it. When you start to predict questions, don't just predict. Also practice answering them at the same time, because these will be the potential answers that you will give in the actual job interview. When you practice answering these questions, keep them simple and to the point. Don't get fancy. Don't start telling crazy stories. It doesn't impress anybody. And in these job interviews, the employer, the interviewer, the hiring manager, all they're doing is asking a question, and all you have to do is give them a simple, straightforward answer. Yes, there will be times when you're going to have a hiring manager and a junior employee conducting your interview. And yes, that junior employee usually has a chip on their shoulder, and they will start asking you all kinds of crazy questions. Ones that even God or Jesus themselves can't even predict. Why is the junior employee doing that? They're basically trying to show off to the employer, like, hey, look how good I am at this. Hey, I'm trying to keep out a bad potential employee, things like that. If that happens to you, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You probably won't get that job, and that's fine. Think about it this way. You dodged a bullet. Why would you want to work at an organization or a company or any place where people have egos and chips on their shoulders? Yes, that has happened to me in the past, and yes, I didn't get hired for the job. But I took an L on it and I kept going, because honestly, I don't want to work with people that have egos. It happens all the time. Every workplace has egos, but I like to work at a place where not everyone has one. You will come across 3 types of questions: situational, behavioral, and skills-based questions. And I'll talk about each one in turn. The point of a situational question is to gauge your reaction to what if scenarios. The employer is trying to gauge your decision making skills. This is a soft skill question, and I'll give you an example of one. How do you deal with an unhappy client? What the employer is trying to gauge is if you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation, how do you handle it? How do you interact with people when they aren't pleased with you or the product your company has provided? Yes, if your company provides a product, it isn't your fault, but you are the company. How are you going to represent the company or organization in this scenario? That is what the employer is trying to figure out. Number 2 is behavioral. Here, once again, the employer is trying to gauge soft skills. The employer is trying to see how you respond when you are given an assignment. They're trying to get an understanding of your work ethic, your attitude. Are you trustworthy? Think about it this way. You've got a big sandbox, right? And there's a bunch of kids in that sandbox. And they're all building a castle. And there's that one kid who just stands there and watches everyone else build that castle. Once that castle is built, that one kid that didn't do anything goes and calls his parents and says, look, mommy, I built that castle. Knowing good and well, he didn't build that castle. He just stood there and watched. The employer is trying to figure out, are you that kid that takes credit for the castle that other people built? Or are you the kid that's going to jump in and help build that castle and help get that company where it's trying to go? Here's an example question. Describe a time you took an initiative to solve a problem. What the employer is trying to figure out is, if you see a problem, are you simply going to tell the employer, hey, yo, big boss man, found a problem over here. It's got to be fixed. I found the problem. I did a good job. Yes, you did a good job finding the problem. But are you going to stand there and look at it, or are you going to fix it? Think about it this way. Accountants and analysts. What does an accountant do? They have a calculator, they have a bunch of numbers, and they crunch numbers all day. An accountant's job is to find a problem. Accountants don't solve problems. They are bad at solving problems, but they will find a problem like a dog with a bone. An analyst will find the problem, and they will tell you, hey, I found the problem. Here's how to fix it. Oh, by the way, I already started fixing it. What the behavioral type of question, it's a two-pronged gauge. The employer is trying to find out, are you going to fit in with the culture of this company? And are you going to be an active player of this company at the same time? 3, skills-based questions. These are hard or technical questions. Well, it's not a hard question, but it's a hard skill question. And hard skills are technical skills. For example, these are skills that can be taught. I can teach you what 2 + 2 is, but I can't teach you how to be a good team player. That's something that you're taught as a kid in school by your parents, things like that. So, skills-based questions are gauging your understanding of theory, and if you're able to actually put it in practice using tools and technology at your disposal. Here's a sample question. Explain how to troubleshoot a malfunctioning GPS. Okay, obviously if you're being asked this question, you understand how a GPS works. Good job, you understand theory. You probably took a whole bunch of college courses and spent a whole lot of cash going to college. But the employer is trying to find out, can you take what you've been taught and can you apply it? A skills-based question is application. So, yes, I understand you know how GPS works. But if it stops working properly, teach me how to fix it. That's all the employer is asking. That's all I've got. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. If it's your first time here and you found the video helpful, hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about it. I'm gonna go do part 3. I'm gonna go record it, and I'll be back. Until then, peace out, homies.